This show is based on Lakota Star knowledge, and this is all about living a life of peace and looking at everything in life as having at least three perspectives. And these perspectives are not about which one is good and which one is bad. This is about learning. It's what can I learn from this perspective, whatever that is. What can I learn from that? Also, it says that we have to have peace inside of ourselves before we can have peace with anything else. Before we can be at peace with things around us, we have to have peace within ourselves. Living this way requires taking care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, because these four parts are connected to each other. And if one goes down, they all go down. Where they are connected to each other is in the center of you. This is your sacred center. So when you live in this manner, you will come to peace with everything in your past that's bothered you, and you won't have any emotional issues with it anymore. It's done. You learn from it, and you acquire wisdom, knowledge, and you let it go. You're at peace. And this helps you to stay in the present moment, in the here and now. And this is the best place to be, to learn, especially from difficult experiences. And as soon as you do that, you make the best out of it. Those emotions that came with that experience leave, and they bring you peace and knowledge and wisdom. And this is going to bless you. And so when good times happen, you'll be able to really enjoy, savor every drop of it, every second of it, every moment of it. And this is how we live. We learn so that we can live, so that we can love. That's how it goes. No good versus evil. It's all about learning from difficulties and enjoying your blessings so you can love. So when things don't turn out the way you would like to have them turned out, you just say, okay, wait a minute now. That's a detour. It's not done. It's a detour. And you check it out and learn from it. And you're going to end up in a better place when you do that. So again, this also leads you to looking at everything in life and seeing that everything has at least three perspectives. Now, sometimes something occurs in somebody's life, and for whatever reason, they lose that third perspective, and they only see two. And then they develop the tendency to put those two perspectives against each other and say the one that I like is the good one. The other one is bad. This is how good versus evil is created. It's created by man. It violates natural law because natural law says there's at least three perspectives, and it's not about which one is good. It's about what can I learn from it. So when you only see two perspectives, that's called duality. And you put things in, it's either this or that. It can only be this or that. That's duality. And so they come up with ideas like, if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. I am the solution, and if you're not with me, you're the problem. See, that's typical dualistic statement. And this separates people from each other, and everybody tries to be on top or above, away, better than the other one. That is oppression, and it creates victims. Now, when you only see two perspectives, this means you're missing one. So actually, you're only seeing two out of three. But dualistic people, from that two, they only accept one. So actually, out of a total of at least three perspectives, dualistic people only accept one out of three. which is 33%, which means they only accept 33% of reality. That's kind of sad. Yeah. Look at how much they're missing. Yeah. And so when they go through difficult experiences, difficult times, they don't really process the full experience because they only see 33% of it. So a lot of that emotion gets trapped inside of them. It doesn't leave. Therefore, they cannot have peace. And they cannot develop emotionally. When you live the star knowledge way and you learn from difficulties, the emotions leave you and they bring you peace and knowledge and wisdom. But in duality, it doesn't happen like that because they only accept 1/3 of reality. Therefore, the emotions are trapped inside of them. Every time they have a difficult experience, the emotions are trapped inside of them. And therefore, they do not develop emotionally. In Lakota star knowledge, you do develop emotionally because as you learn from difficulty, the emotions leave and bring you wisdom, as I said, and knowledge and happiness. And this develops people emotionally. But in duality, that doesn't happen because the emotions are trapped. So dualistic people are not emotionally developed, and this hinders spiritual development and mental development. It eventually causes the physical body to become ill because those 4 parts are connected to each other. So since they don't develop emotionally, they develop emotional insecurities and inferiority complexes. And anything they disagree with, they say it's wrong. They question you, or they try to put themselves above you by saying, you're on the right track, but you're not quite there. That's paternalism. Paternalism is when people think they know more than others and they have this desire and need to say that you are on the right track. You're almost there, but not quite. They have this desire because this is their way of putting themselves above you. And anytime somebody does that, this is dualism. Because healthy people don't talk like that. Healthy people don't say, yeah, you're on the right track. You're not quite there. That's dualism. Paternalism is right in there. Paternalism is when you think you know what's right for everybody. Ethnocentrism is when you think your culture is the best. And racism, we know that. And dogma is when you say your way is the only way and every way else is wrong. This all comes from duality. People separate themselves from others and try to say things to elevate themselves above others. We have to see duality as a difficulty and not as something to wipe out. Because if we say that duality must be wiped out, then we are dualistic. So we see duality as a difficulty, meaning we study it and see how it works and we learn from it and we make it work for us. That's how it is. So in duality, like I said, a lot of ideas come from that, like dogma, that it can only be this way. And Western society is really largely based on duality. And remember, what I said is that in duality, people cannot develop emotionally, and they cannot develop spiritually, and they cannot have peace because the emotions are trapped inside of them. So they create systems of beliefs and say, if you believe this system, it will give you peace. See, they're creating something outside of themselves and saying, if you believe this and accept this, it will give you peace. This is how religions are born. And then, to start a religion and maintain it, it must have rules. Therefore, they say, okay, in this belief system, everything can only be one certain way. It can only be this way. It can't be any other way. It must be this way and no way else. That is duality. This is religion. They create these rules to control the society. And it even goes so far as to put up a set of rules and say, this is reality, and it can only be this way. This is the rule. And then they create a super fantastic being, and they say that this being is what created the universe and created us. And this being said that things can only be a certain way. And if they are a different way, then they are of the devil. So they create the super good person and the super evil person. These are creations of man. This is their argument they use. And so this is how religions operate. This is the backbone of religions. They're dualistic. They're designed to control people. They're designed to control society. And then they create rules that say their God gave them power over the earth, over the fields, over the waters, over the animals, over the fowls of the air, over the beasts of the land. See, now they're separating themselves from nature. They're saying that their God told them that man is above nature. Again, another duality, separating yourself and putting yourself above other creation. That is duality. Again, it's all duality. And so the entire society is based on that. That men are superior to everything else, even to women. So the religions state that women are the property of men. And in some cases, they say that to go to heaven, because they create this idea of eternal happiness, see, that's an emotion. They're using emotion as a state of dwelling, as a state of existence. And they say, if you follow this way, you end up in this eternally happy place. If you don't, you're cursed to hell. You're burned forever. All eternity. Duality again. And some religions even go so far as to say that the more children that a man produces, the better his chances are in getting into heaven. How does that verse go? Happy is he with many arrows in his sheath. That means the more kids you have, the better God looks at you. And then some religions take that further by having many sheaves, meaning having plural wives. This is all designed by man, not woman, but man. And this is all dualism. It's all designed to control the world. So everything has to follow their way. So they believe they actually have the power to control nature through prayer. Then they invent these priesthoods and say that they have a certain spirit in them when they get this priesthood, and that they can command nature at will. That they can command a tree to get up and walk away so that they can walk through there. This is really what they believe. That their God has given them power over nature. That they command what nature can do, and they can do whatever they want with nature. That nature must obey the will of man. That man commands nature, that man is above nature, and that everything only can be their way. That is dogma. This is how a lot of religions are. This is how Western society is. And there's always that common thread of it can only be a certain way. It can only be this way. Their book even says that God created man and then woman from man, from his rib, and this places woman under the man. Jewish Kabbalists believe that Adam was created with a woman at the same time, and they were created in the same way, but that the woman, Adam couldn't handle her. So Adam asked God to please do away with her. So he cast her out of the Garden of Eden. And so God created a lesser being, and that was Eve. So the first woman was really a woman by the name of Lilith, Lilith. That's what the Kabbalists believe. It's crazy, isn't it? That just because the man, Adam, could not handle her, and he asked God to cast her out, so God did. I think that part is interesting, that in the beginning, the Kabbalists believe that man and woman were created together. But why was it that a lesser being had to be created, and that was Eve? That is sexist. That places still man over woman. This is not natural. And so the scripture continues that God made woman for man, that women were created for the sole use of mankind. They are to serve mankind. That's in the Bible. That's in the Old Testament. And religions brainwash their people into believing this. So when you look at a lot of religious communities, you see women, they are subservient. And even when they say they're not, they still are. They will say, well, we are here to make sure the men do things right. Some religions actually say that we serve the men as the men serve God. So the men must serve God with all their hearts, mights, and minds and strengths, and the women must serve their men in the same manner. Some religions are that way. The bottom line is, it don't matter which way it is, the common denominator is that women are under men in religion, in duality. And this violates natural law because it is dualistic. It is duality. This violates natural law. This whole idea was created by man to create a place after death where there's eternal happiness based on an emotion. How can that be? Because emotions belong to the body. When the body dies, the emotions stay with the body. Emotions do not go with the soul. This is Lakota Star knowledge. So how can there be a place of eternal happiness? That's based on an emotion. See, that's because men created this concept, because men, dualistic men, are trapped in their emotion. They're trapped in difficult emotions of pain, anger, fear. And so they create the complete opposite in the afterlife of eternal happiness. If you live their way, you'll get there. That's how this comes. It's based upon man's current dualistic state of being. And that being is trapped in fear, anger, and sadness. That's what they're trapped in. So they create this concept of heaven, where it's eternally happy. All your troubles are gone. It's a man-made idea. And to get people to believe in their way, they say, if you don't believe this way, you go to hell, where you are damned for all time and eternity. And you are evil. If you do not follow us, then you are of the devil. That is another dualistic statement. It's dualism through and through. That's religion. That is duality. It can only be one way. That's how they are. So they elaborate on this, man and woman. The elaboration continues that when a child is born and it has female parts, this is a woman, this is a girl, this is a female, and her role is to grow up, marry a man, have his children, serve him, raise the children, and this is how she gives honor to their God. This is their belief. That is a subservient position. And when the child is born male, in many religions he's favored, and he can do what he wants as long as he serves God. He can do as he wants. He can go wherever he wants to. And some religions carry that too far. It's not just Islam. It's other religions too. It's Christianity and Catholicism and Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the same thing. The women are subservient to the men. This is duality. You're born a woman, you're automatically doomed. And even if you have a job, you're not going to get paid the same as a man. You have to be careful and not go the feminism route. The feminist route is just as bad as the male chauvinist route. They're two extremes. That's another dualism. Feminism is a reaction to Western society. It's a reaction to dualism. It's another extreme. It is dualistic. It's not a healthy concept. That's all part of duality. It's a byproduct of duality. The bottom line is, if you're born physically a woman, your role is pretty much cut out for you. If you're born physically a man, you can do what you want because your Bible says man is above everything and only serves God. Do you see? It's setting up control issues here. This is duality. Do you see? All of this violates Lakota Star knowledge. In Lakota Star knowledge creation story, man and woman were created at the same time. Now, some Lakota people like to say the woman was created first. That's false. That's a reaction to Christianity. What the star knowledge says is that man and woman were created at the same time. One is called Ina, the other one is called Ate, mother, father. Right after that, more were created, all at the same time. That's how it tells it in Lakota Star knowledge. And neither one is more important than the other. Religions create expectations for children. All boys are this way, all girls are that way. There can only be this way and that way. The way for men and the way for women. Nothing more. And that God created woman for man. So, according to them, boys can only be a certain way. And girls can only be a certain way too. That girls were designed for boys. But this is God's intention. God is an idea that was made up by man to control society. Their own society and others, to oppress others. That even if they disagree with them, then they say God gives them the right to destroy them. That's duality. Either this way or that way. There's two options. That's duality. And Lakota Star knowledge is completely different. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about what can we learn. Can we learn together? Sometimes we can. So in Lakota Star knowledge, it's based on nature. It's based on how things happen in nature. Is that sometimes really beautiful things happen. Sometimes other things happen. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're ugly. It just means other things. And sometimes another thing happens. In nature, it's never this or that. In nature, it's this, that, and the other. And also, there could be many others. Lakota Star knowledge teaches that reality has at least 3 perspectives. And it's not about which one is the good one. It's about what can I learn from this? What can we learn from this? Sometimes things happen that are out of the norm. We call that wakan. And sometimes this means sacred, but sometimes it means something that is special. It's energy. So that when that third thing happens, it's really, really interesting. And this happens to humans as well. Sometimes a child is born and it's both male and female. It has both male and female parts. And this is special. This is not a deformation. This is not an abomination. This is wakan. This is a physical representation of a being who represents 2 cycles, male and female. In Lakota Star knowledge, we have a very beautiful story called When the Moon Cried. I don't have enough time to tell that story, but the result of that story is the creation of a male cycle and a female cycle. The female cycle is monthly. The male cycle is yearly. Neither one is more important than the other. They're just 2 different cycles. They're just 2 different perspectives. And they can accommodate each other. But neither one is over the other. They can complement each other. This is the way it is in our culture. The man is not above the woman, and neither is the woman above the man. They have 2 different perspectives. And when they can reach an understanding, this is holy. This is sacred. Because at the end of their lives, they are mahasani. That is really sacred. But sometimes children are born that represent that concept in one child. That's why they're considered sacred. They have both the male and female cycle. Now sometimes a child might be born and it is physically a girl, but inside is a boy. This happens. This is nature. This is not wrong. This is nature. So, several thousand years ago, when something like this happened, then the child was allowed to express who he was or who she was inside of themselves. So if it was a girl, she would go around like a man, because inside of her was a mind of a man. Inside of her was the male perspective, even though her body was a woman. But she was seen as a man. Not just Lakota people were this way, but our allies, the Cheyenne, they were this way too. There was a well-known Cheyenne warrior that fought the Battle of the Little Bighorn. She fought after that with the Cheyenne people and Lakota people, and they all accepted her as a man. She dressed like a man. She even looked like a man, but she was a woman. This is one of those people. And among the Indian people, they accepted her. She wanted to be seen as a man because inside of her body, her mind, she was a man. She dressed like it. And everybody accepted her as a man. She was a member of a men's warrior society. In our culture, this was normal. This was a part of nature. And this happened the other way too. There were boys who were born inside of themselves, they were girls. And so they were allowed to be raised with the other girls. They wore dresses. They kept themselves just like they were women. And they were accepted as women. These are sacred people. In the story, When the Moon Cried, it talks about the male cycle, it talks about the female cycle, but it also mentions that there are people that have both cycles. And sometimes there are people that, for whatever reason, something happens when the lady is carrying the child. There might be some kind of chemical reaction where the mind develops in a different way than the body is. That's why when children are born, is this boy really a boy or could it be a girl? And vice versa. They look at these female children and they say, are these really girls or is one of them really a boy inside? Because if she's a boy inside, we have to let her express that. Otherwise, she's going to live a sad life. They want the children to grow up to be healthy emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. So they have to find out, are these children, what are they? And like I said, if one of them has the mind of a girl, but the body of a boy, then they let her live as a girl. If that's her choice, they let her live as a girl. Just because she has a body of a boy, they don't force her to do the things that boys are being taught. Because her mind is a girl. Because see, the reason why this is accepted, that this was a beautiful thing, is because reality begins within. Reality begins within, and this is in the mind. And so if this person has a male body, but inside she's female, this is her reality. And reality begins within. So she's expressed herself as a woman. And like I said, if these people lived today and our societies were still with that third perspective, these people would be having these operations to complete the physical transformation. So in our culture, we had transgender people. This fits in our society because we live with nature. And nature says there's at least 3 perspectives. So it's possible. Your baby is born and it's physically a boy, but as you watch it, it heads towards the female side. And you don't try and stop it, but you don't push it either. You just let the child be. Just let the child be. If it's a phase, phases end by natural law. Yeah? Phases will end all on their own. You don't have to do anything. They will end by themselves. But if it doesn't end, then you know this is a transgender. And there's nothing wrong with that. You let that child be what that child is inside of themselves. You see, life is just what you make of it. Now, when the child is born inside the woman, there's things that could still happen to its physical development, where the mind was female all along. But the body, because of some kind of whatever happening with the mother in relation to that child, something might have happened to cause the chemicals to physically move the chromosomes or whatever to produce a physically male body, even though the mind is female. So you have to make the best of the situation for that child. Not for you, for the child. So that's why when they saw them, that this is what they were, they let them be that way. Because if it's a phase, they knew they would come out of it. If they don't come out of it, they know it's not a phase. So we had this in our culture. We have a term called winkte. It has several definitions, and none of them are gay. That's the misunderstanding. A lot of people think that winkte means gay. They think that means homosexual. It doesn't. What it means is several possibilities. A winkte is a man who could be physically male and has the perspective of both the male and the female. This is a man who can totally understand women. He knows their cycle. Even though he has the male cycle, he can comprehend 100% the female cycle. That's one definition of a winkte. Another definition is a person who is born both male and female, because there are people this way. The scientific name for them is hermaphrodite. They have both male and female genitals. Some of them lean more to the female side in the rest of their body. The rest of their body might lean more to the female side. Some of them, it might lean more to the male side, but they both have both body parts. These are also sacred because it's a physical representation of the male and female perspective. And again, they have both the male and female perspective. That's another definition of winkte. And the third one is a transgen. This is a boy who has the mind of a girl. This is not a mistake. Because guess what? In nature, there are no mistakes. Nature happens. Nature is. So therefore, we must be. So when you use that concept, and you see one of these children, you let them be. Meaning, since reality begins within, if this child is physically male, but inside is female, you let that person be female. That's natural law. So one of the good things about today's technology is these kind of people can now make the transformation complete. They can now reflect what's on the inside because reality begins within. This is not a mistake. This is not a sin. This is not an abomination. This is nature. This is life. So this is how that is in our culture. So we had these people. But duality says that these people are an abomination because duality says that their God made man and woman and that men must do men things and women must do women things. If your body is physically male, then you are a boy. If your body is physically woman, then you are a woman. That's what duality says. And if you try to mix that up, then you are from the devil. Do you see? That's duality. So duality frowns on transgender people. But our ancient society, let them be. Why should we not let them be? What good is that going to do to not let them be? Everybody has a right to be who they are and to develop their talents, to make choices and learn and love. That's how we live. And so do these people. They have that same right when inside of their bodies they're the opposite sex, they have every right to live as that. Whatever they are in their mind, they have every right to be that, to express that, because that's where they begin. So in our culture, this was normal. But today's Western world is dualistic. And the Western belief systems say that these people are freaks. It says they should be put to death, that they should not exist, that they are mentally retarded, that there's something wrong, they need medication, that they should be locked up and kept away from society because they're perverts. That's because of duality. The Western belief systems violating these people's right to exist. How does a God of love support that? Duality is the greatest con in this world, and that includes Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Mormonism, Scientology. Anything that shows things as either this or that is a violation of natural law. It's a violation of the universe. Duality is a violation of the universe. So anything that falls under that is the violation. And this is why they say that transgender people should be put to death. In some time periods, they called them witches. That must have been a hard time. Like in certain parts of the world where they weren't understood and their land was incredibly dualistic, that they had to force themselves to live as what they really weren't, just to stay alive. That must have been a really hard, sad life. And that's because of duality. That's because of man's fear of what he cannot understand. Man's fear of passion. Man's fear of true love. He has to say that all of that is evil and from the devil. So in Western society, these people are frowned upon, they're made fun of. Today, they're made fun of, they're put down and ridiculed. That's really sad. And that's so typical of a dualistic society. They get ostracized by the community. Most of the time, their family will disown them. Suddenly, the guy, maybe he's gone for several years, and then he comes back to visit his mother and his father, and he's a woman. And they cannot accept him. They disown him. And they call him mentally deficient. And they don't accept him anymore. Most of the time, that's what happens. That's because of duality. So believing in good versus evil is not a healthy thing, because it hurts so many people in this world that do not deserve that pain. But it's all because of man's need to control others that it fears. Man's need to rise above others. Man's need to prove to others that they are right. And if you don't agree with them, that you are wrong. Duality comes from man, not nature. So transgender, this is normal. In nature, this is normal. So transgender, this is not a mental disorder. This is nature. Nature is. So we should be. And let these people be. They're a part of us too. Their nature. They're also ikje oyate. Just like every human is ikje oyate. Transgender people are not less than us. They are us. Anybody out there who might be this way, I encourage you to follow it. Your reality begins inside of you. So whatever you are inside of you, express that. Because that's normal. You are normal. It's duality that's fucked up. So hang in there. You have a lot of people on your side. A lot. This is wider than most people think. People think that this just happens every now and then. You know what? There are so many people in this world who are transgen. I don't even know it. Because they've been brainwashed by duality, by the religion that their society belongs to. They're forcing themselves to be something they absolutely are not. Transgen is nature. And nature is. And we should be. The transgen people, they are us. We're all Itazipco-Sicangu. For those of you that disagree with me, you have every right to. But I speak from Lakota Star knowledge, and I know that what I'm saying is from the ancestors, because this is their knowledge. This is how they communicated with each other from their sacred centers, which is inside of themselves, where reality begins, where the physical body, the mind, the heart, and the soul all connect. And when we live in this healthy way, this is a way of life. This is not a religion. It's a way of life. Religion comes from duality. That's what causes the world's problems. Our way of life is living. It's learning. And it leads to love. And that can only be found within yourself. To be at peace in yourself. And then you communicate to others from your sacred center, and your communication carries this power to other people. And that's how you influence them. This is the way of our ancestors. I'm not talking about the teepee days. I'm talking about several million years ago, when there was only one continent. And we were called Itazipco-Sicangu. We weren't even called Lakota. For those of us who are Lakota, we weren't even called Lakota in the beginning. We were called Itazipco-Sicangu. Everybody was. There's nothing in the star knowledge stories that says there was red people or black people or white people or beige people or whatever. It doesn't say anything like that. It says Itazipco-Sicangu, that we're all people. Because no matter where you go, no matter what people you go among, all babies all over this world speak the same language. And we all need earth, wind, fire, and water to live. And we all bleed red. Red is the color of life. It doesn't represent Indians. It represents life. Reality begins within. That's how the universe was created. And this is based on Lakota Star knowledge. This is an ancient thing. The transgen people has always been here. This is not something that's just a freak of nature that just started recently. This has always been here. We've always had the transgen people in our society. This is part of life. We're all in this together. This show is an international show. It just has a Lakota flavor, but this message is designed for all people because our ancestors communicated from their sacred centers. And when you communicate from there, there is no skin color. Within you, there is no skin color. There is no race. There is no language. There is no shape. There's no form. This is your sacred area. I encourage you to at least think about what I said and be who you are. Whatever you are inside of yourself, in your mind, be that, because that's where your reality begins. So live your life for you. In this way, you can really teach your children how to live. To learn more about Lakota spirituality, I have written a book called Wichocha Otechike. This book also includes Lakota Star Knowledge information. All the videos that I make, which are about Lakota spirituality, Lakota Star Knowledge, and cultural information, are based on this book. This book costs 99 American dollars, and this price includes the shipping cost as well as a tracking number. And to learn more about Lakota language, I have written a Lakota language book called Chante Etaha Owoglake, Speaking from the Heart. And all my Lakota language videos are based on this book. This book cost 119 American dollars, and this price includes the shipping cost as well as a tracking number. I also teach online, and I give spiritual consultations as well. The price for these sessions are 35 American dollars an hour. If you are interested in any of my services and products, you can send payment via PayPal to my email address, which is hehaka7@yahoo.com. That's HEHAKA, the number 7@yahoo.com. And also include your shipping address and your email address when you send your payment. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.
Honey techi khila chante mitra wachi chonke chante mitra chichu wa wotena mishnime o waki hishni nishnala iyo tachila lila unku wachi ya hey hey honey techi khila chante mitra wachi chonke chante mitra chichu wo tena mishnime awaki hishni lishnala iyo tachila lila unku wachi ya hey la hey ha hey ya hey la hey ha hey Toka wachi yangecha hey honey techi khila chante mitra wachi chonke chante mitra chichu wa wotena mishnie o waki hishni nishnala iyo tachila lila unku wachi ya hey la hey ha hey תצ'יחילה צ'נטה מתחוואצ'י צ'נטה מתחוואצ'יצ'ו וווטה נמשתימה אוואקי השתי נשנה לה איו תצ'ילה לילה וקוואצ'י יא hey 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 יא